Hello, everyone, and welcome to Breakup Bites. I'm Jennifer Donison, and this is Jennifer Barkin. And today we're going to talk about spousal support.
So, spousal support is probably one of the most contentious or potentially contentious issues when it comes to separation and divorce. Rarely do we get clients that say, I really want to pay spousal support to my ex, and I just want to pay as much as possible and for as long as possible. That's really a scenario we don't see, right? Um, I tend to see that a lot of people are fine with supporting their children, and they'll say that. Um, I'm good to support my kids. I don't want to support him or her. But sometimes spousal support is on the table. So I should start with differentiating between spousal support and child support. One of the big differences is child support is a set amount. We calculate child support on divorcement. Here's the number. It's the non-negotiable. Spousal support is not quite as clear. And why I say that is they call it the Spousal Support Advisory Guidelines. So I think that's your key word. They're guidelines. So it gives us a guide on what spousal support might look like. But spousal support is not automatically granted like child support. So for spousal support, the person asking for spousal support has to show a need. Is there a need for spousal support? If need is established, the second question will be, what's the amount? And third question, what's the duration? Spousal support can also be given on compensatory basis. So what that might mean is this was our relationship. And during our relationship, you worked up, Jennifer, the corporate ladder because I did all the cooking and the cleaning and the grocery shopping and the carpool and the homework. So I should be compensated in some way for all that I did. Because think about it. If that was the family structure and one person didn't have all these other household responsibilities, they were able to focus on moving up a corporate ladder. Well, the other person may have taken time off work, maybe could only work part-time, maybe, couldn't work the late hours and the overtime because they had the child caring responsibilities. So that could be a spousal support reason for compensatory reasons to be given. So
Mhm.
after spousal support is agreed to, then we look at the spousal support advisory guidelines. And the guidelines are calculated, or we see what they are on the DivorceMate software on that same page of calculations that shows us the child support. And the guidelines will give us three numbers: a low, a midpoint, and a high. Important to know that the spousal support numbers are always going to be a little bit lower when child support is being paid. If there's no child support being paid, we see the numbers as being higher, the amounts as being higher. And why is that? So if you think of, if I have a cake, one cake, right? And I gotta feed these people. Well, the children get fed first, and whatever's left over can be applied for spousal support. If there's no children to feed, well, then there's more cake for the adults. So,
Huh,
sort of an idea of how this works.
that's a
So,
great
again,
analogy.
child support is payable. The spousal support numbers are always lower, but if there's no children, no child support, the numbers grow. So I find that's a big fear of somebody that's been paying spousal support, where they want an end to it already, whether you're coming to a review for spousal support, because they learn that, guess what, the kids are growing up, and now guess what, these spousal support numbers are going to increase.
I think that's all really great information. And, I think that there's some people who should understand that spousal support can be paid in different ways. So it can be negotiated on a monthly basis, just like child support, or it could be a lump sum payout or buyout.
Mhm.
And sometimes that's helpful if, let's say, there's a matrimonial home and you can allocate a little bit more money to the other spouse and buy them out. And then that way you don't have to worry about reoccurring payments every month. And there's different tax implications for either way as well. So sometimes it's really important to look into that to see which option works best for you and your family.
So there's pros and cons in both. Um, a pro, I would say, for the payer who's paying monthly is they get to write this off, right? The recipient pays taxes on it, but the payer gets to write that off. But for a lump sum payment, the payer doesn't get that same uh, tax benefit.
Right.
However, the other benefit is you can have, I call them the catch fire clauses. Here's my lump sum to you, but even if you get sick down the road, if you partner, if you remarry, if you lose your job, on and on and on, that this is the amount that I'm giving you today and done. You can't come back. So
And
some people
that's a
like this, it allows them to move forward, and it's worth losing that money at the beginning, on the write-off end, just to have that closure.
right. You bring up a really good point. How long is spousal support going to go on for? That's negotiated as well. And sometimes it could be till the person who is, let's say, a stay at home parent gets a job and establishes himself in their career, depending on how old or young the parents are and how much opportunity do they have left to work. It's also helpful to know that you can implement a stipulation in the agreement saying, for X amount of years, and then to revisit and to see if spousal support is still appropriate. So it is more flexible in child support in that sense, where you are able to negotiate for how long and how much.
But it's not an automatic. And I will say, and that's a great point that you brought up, um, about revisiting. I- I've rarely seen an agreement with spousal support that doesn't have a review listed, because for the payer, they're going to want an end to this. And for the recipient, they're going to have to show there's still a need, what they've been doing to find work or to retrain, because there is, really an expectation, in most circumstances, for people to become self-sufficient and get back on their feet.
Absolutely. And it's always important, I feel, to have a mediator or a third party neutral to discuss this with the parties so no one feels coerced into accepting something that they're not comfortable with, either party, and to have it established so everyone understands what the payments are going to be and there's less room for conflict because it's going to be already established and you could both move forward with your lives.
One thing that we haven't spoken about, and I'll just speak about very briefly, is whether you're in mediation or whether you're in litigation. Um, if you are the person who is trying to get spousal support, the recipient, it's very important to understand the numbers and what it looks like, because even though we have a 50-50 property division in this province, um, and then let's say somebody's getting some spousal support, when the equalization is done and both people are split down the middle and kind of walking with the same, the person who has been disadvantaged by the relationship, if you project 5 years into the future, where that person is, even though you started out 50-50, that other person who has the great job, who has the income, et cetera, is now here and it's going like this. So that is something helpful to think about when understanding, do I take the low, the mid, am I entitled to the high amount, what the spousal support, what you are going to need. And, you know, this really comes into effect too. I'm just going on a tangent. When people say, I want to buy my spouse out of the house, and I'm always saying, we're premature in this discussion. Let's see what child support looks like. Let's see what spousal support looks like in addition to the property division, because, while you may have enough for the buyout, you can't take a brick out of the residence and feed your children with that brick.
Great point. Yeah. So if
A little bit about spousal.
yeah, and if anyone has any other questions about it, you can feel free to contact Jennifer and I anytime. And we hope that this has helped clarify a couple things for you.
Thank you for joining. I'm Jennifer Barkin, Jennifer Donison. Until next time.